same components of advertising, but now instead of just words run through Google, you just turn them in. Now you just speak them. So Perry, let's take Perry's greatest hits and let's turn those. Now you just speak them on a cell phone. So for my birthday, I flew out to Chicago and we hung out the whole day and we recorded videos on this cell phone. And we got Perry Marshall on TikTok.
I'm going to have to go check it out.
Hey, Christian.
How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Better than I deserve.
Well, do you think you don't deserve a lot?
Well, I just know all the things I've done. So
I don't think any of us are deserving of anything, but I'll take free gifts.
Yeah, exactly right.
Every day is grace. It's a free gift.
Amen.
Do you have a microphone?
I do. Are you not getting good sound?
It sounds echoey, or either it's too far away from you or you've got the wrong source listed.
Stand by.
What are you using? Is it within 12 inches of your lips?
It's a Blue Yeti.
Blue Yeti. Most people have the Blue Yetis turned the wrong way. You want to have the mushroom shape. There's 4 settings. You want to put it on that mushroom shape and then have it tilted slightly away from you instead of tilted straight at you.
Yeah, no, that's the way I have it.
Really? Okay. Oh, that sounds better. I think maybe it's just not close enough to you.
Okay. Sound check.
It's okay, but then to get your face closer to it, it looks like then you're out of view. So I don't know if you can adjust your camera. You got like a webcam?
I do. Let me change.
It's not a huge deal.
I turned down the gain. Is that any better?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
You're just saying that.
You know, I've got a lot of friends that are professional videographers and they
Yes.
obsess about every single little detail. But the most important thing is your expertise. And no amount of like camera work or fancy equipment is going to make up for the expertise that you have. And that's the core thing that you bring. No pun intended.
That's true. I have a lot of videographer clients and they won't even use a Zoom to record. They're like, nope.
That's like the Michelin chef.
Yes.
They go eat at McDonald's at the drive-thru because the last thing they want to do after a whole day of cooking fancy food is doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I emailed you a follow-up. I apologize. I didn't do my research. So what kinds of topics would you like to discuss?
Well, these are things that we want to put up as blog posts that honor you, that help you rank.
Okay.
And because you're an accounting agency that serves creatives, I see, for example, that you rank on cycle code and people are asking about IRS cycle code 05, long-term, short-term debt. What does processing date mean on IRS transcript? So you have all these different things, and these seem to I feel the pain of all these creatives that are asking these questions. So I wanted to ask you, what are the top things that creatives ask? And how did you become the accounting guy for creatives? And you know, what's interesting about your business that we wouldn't know?
Okay.
That stuff like that, just to be from an interesting standpoint, like help me understand your business.
Okay.
And cool things that would apply to me as an entrepreneur. Maybe tell me some interesting stories.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of stories. I've been doing this a long time. How we got into being accountants for creatives is really by accident. We just started accumulating them. And then we decided to, lean into it. Like a lot of business owners, we never chose a niche, which I think is marketing death. And it, for whatever reason, I think it was more my obstinance than anything. We didn't have a target market. We didn't have a niche. And so we leaned into what we already had. But along the way, we learned some interesting things. When we looked at our creative clients and what they said about us and their reviews and their testimonials, we kept coming up with the term guide, that we were a guide, that we were helpful, that we were relatable. I think a lot of, accountants are, I always forget, is it left or right brained? Left brained.
Analytical.
Yes. And not too terribly personable, love spreadsheets. And certainly you have to have those skills to do what we do. But we as an organization spend a tremendous amount of resources educating our team on soft skills like communication. We do a lot of work with DISC. and identifying how people prefer to be communicated with, and leaning into that, not using technical terms that are hard to understand, not talking down. I mean, it's
Right.
kind of fascinating how many accountants are kind of unintentionally or intentionally aloof. And that doesn't sit well with most creatives. As I got onto this journey, I realized, are you familiar with Perry Marshall?
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. We co-authored
Oh, yeah, that's
this
where I met. I
this
met you.
book. Yeah.
Yes,
You
that's
see
right. I'm
this?
sorry. So when I was in a hot seat at one of his events, and he talked about the difference between uh, creatives and builders as entrepreneurs. And builders are more opportunists. They see something in the marketplace and they exploit it. Maybe not, that's not a great word. It's not in a negative way, but they see something that there's
He sees upon it. Yeah.
right. Whereas the creative is more passion driven. And so like they can see something that is an opportunity to make money, but they're not interested in it. So they don't pursue it. And after being an entrepreneur for 24 years, when I heard that, I realized that I was a creative entrepreneur. I don't know that I would identify as a creative, but definitely I do what I'm passionate about, and that is helping others. And the idea of just starting a business because there's an opportunity in making money doesn't really have any interest to me. But creatives, good Lord, that was loud. Creatives in general, coming from that right brain thinking, don't see business the same way left brain people do. The best example I have is my daughter went to school for 4 years, got a degree, and graduated. And she said she had a job offer, and she's like, I don't want to do that. I want to be an artist. And I'm like, okay. And of course, my brain goes to, well, what are you going to make? How are you going to price it? Who are you going to sell it to? Those questions. And she responded with like, I don't know. I just want to paint what I want to paint. And she went off. She's 3 years on doing it and surviving, not banging, but she's been very successful at a young age at that because of her passion. And those analytical type questions are foreign to them. And everybody's on a continuum, and she's definitely one way. But a lot of our clients that come to us are probably more in the middle. Like they do have some analytical capacity, but there's this great intimidation factor around taxes and finance and accounting and numbers. I've had them tell me before, like I get physically ill when I start thinking about it. I don't even want to, right?
Yeah.
And I think connecting with somebody, knowing that that's where they're coming from, and being able to give them the information they need in a way that they understand it, that gives them the answers that they want, is our special sauce. That's what we do.
I think that's incredible. The fact that you can balance the left and right brain, like being an accountant for a videographer seems as oil and water. That's like, if we were to flip it, that would be like, designing the, interior design for a software engineer. It's like,
yeah,
you're basically ambidextrous. So a creative who wants to express themselves and do things because of passion, not because of money. What are the biggest problems, or like, how do they view money? Like, what is their view of money, and what creates distortion there?
Well, I think money is just an outcome, a potential outcome. It's again not the motivator, but of course everybody has to eat, right? And so they realize that they do have to make money, but conversations around money don't come naturally to them because that's not their motivation. You can have very basic conversations about like, well, should I hire an employee, or should I sub some of this work out? I'm reaching my limit on what I can do. just having an 80-20 conversation with them around like, okay, well, what's the 20% that's most valuable that you do?
Mhm.
And then let's look at the 80% and see what we can do to have somebody else do that for you. And
Yeah.
what does that cost look like? And does that make economic sense? Of course, it always does, but they don't naturally think that way of 80-20 or any analytical,
I have a friend who's a broke musician. He plays the guitar, and he told me that a musician is someone who has a $5,000 guitar that he puts in his $500 car to go play a $50 gig.
That's 100% right. And like my daughter, there's some
Yeah.
people that are just never going. They're happy and content to be subsistence to do that, and those are not the people that we're helping. We're helping the people that really want to make money, to have a certain lifestyle, have a certain freedom, but they're unsure how to get there. We are you familiar with Mike Michalowicz, Profit First?
Yep.
We just signed a deal that I'm going to be writing Profit First for creatives.
Oh, good.
And the Profit First is a great tool for creatives just because it's so understandable. It's kind of like the old envelope system that people use.
It forces the discipline. Yeah, the money's put away before you can spend it.
Right, and you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they get flustered, is they get their QuickBooks and they get their bank account set up and they don't really understand anything there, and it's not right, and they're like, I don't even know how much money I have, and that is the anxiety that comes from that. And then it's just natural to just ignore it. It's like, well, it'll work out, and that often doesn't work.
No. If you could give 3 pieces of advice to a creative about their accounting, taxes, and money, what would it be, based on your experience?
Yeah.
Most common issues you've seen.
Well, I definitely think the 80-20 is a key tool in the concept of leveraging your time for what it's most valuable for. The idea that you have to do everything yourself is not accurate. Obviously, outsourcing those accounting and tax things to us is an example of that, but it's not just that, it's everything in the business. Like, what do you really bring value to the table, and how much money can you make doing that and leveraging that time? But again, most of them don't think in those terms. So whether it's to hire an employee or just to free up your time so you can work on projects you like, as opposed to projects that are just paying the bills, really digging into that, where is the value? I've also seen I don't think this is peculiar to creative entrepreneurs or small businesses, but the mistake I made, which is of not establishing a niche. We've had lots of conversations with our clients, videographers, for instance, of like, okay, that's a real broad thing. What are you going to do? You're going to do drones. You're going to do performance. You're going to do food photography. I mean, like, what are you going to be about? And really having the courage to say, I'm going to stick to this niche because this is really what I'm good at it, and this is what I want to do, and exclude everything else and say no to more than you say yes to. The third thing I think is probably just some real practical advice. We see a lot of people asking questions around, should I form an LLC? They hear that term and they think it's something that they need to do. And I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to speak on the legal aspects of it. I think there could be very valid reasons to have an LLC other than accounting and taxes. But most businesses don't need an LLC. They're not making enough money to take advantage of it from a tax standpoint. And so, my rule of thumb is, if you're not netting, like after you've paid all your bills, but before you pay your taxes, and before you pay yourself, if you're not netting 40 or 50 grand a year, there's no reason to even consider it. It's not, there's no juice for the squeeze, and probably doesn't make sense unless you're getting closer to 100,000. But you know, I hear a lot of people come in and they're, you know, doing it as a side hustle, or they're just starting out, or they're making a very small amount of money, and they're like, well, I was told I need an LLC. It's like, well, it's not the most pressing issue today, but you know, okay. So those would be my top three around creatives.
Do you have a general sense on how much creatives should charge for their work, and what's a normal profit margin?
Well, I would say in general more. I think business owners in general and creatives specifically undercharge for their value. There's this idea, you know, you said margin, and like it's like I need to target this margin. I need to, you know, make this much for what work I do. And the reality is the pricing is driven by the customer. It's the perceived value. So it really doesn't matter what time, energy, effort, expertise it takes to deliver it. It's what you're delivering.
Yeah.
And, you know, having that conversation with entrepreneurs and really flipping it on its head, like most of the time you could get rid of a lot of your work because it's just labor intensive, time intensive, and you're not getting paid a lot on it, and replace it with higher priced, lower time work. But that's a scary thing to do, right? I mean, like when you're first starting out, it's like, I need every dollar. I need to get, you know, I got to survive. But there comes a point where you reach your limit or your stress level, and it's like, I need to do something differently. And my first advice is raise your prices.
But how do you get them from, because a lot of them, they start from the cost up. So they'll say $50 an hour, $100 an hour instead of 20 grand for the project.
Right.
Who cares if it takes me 100 hours or 500 hours or 20 hours? If I deliver this project is worth 100 grand to you. So I can easily charge 20 grand for it.
Exactly. And that's it. So, you know, the old negotiating term BATNA of, you know, best alternative available. It's like, well, what are their options? Like, you know, what pain are you solving? What cost are you saving them? What value are you bringing to the table? That's where you start, not your costs. Your costs are irrelevant. I mean, it's relevant in that you've got to be able to make money on it, but it's not in pricing.
Yeah. What percent of your clients are charging hourly or like a time and materials, like, you know, price per day plus equipment versus charging by the project?
It's pretty standard to do it that way, to do day rates, and instead of looking at the outcome. You know, one of the beautiful things of really looking at outcomes, I became fascinated with pricing a few years ago. One of my favorite books is the Confessions of a Pricing Man, and it's a very technical, dry book, but it's just fascinating story after story about pricing. And the thing about focusing on the outcome is that you can start to add, you can start to bundle and add things to it, either things that you provide or you don't provide, you know, partnering with others, etc. But you start to really be able to capture more value then when you start focusing on the outcome as opposed to how much time. You know, the whole hourly rate thing was an outgrowth of the communist labor movement. I mean, that was where that came from. It's not really in line with today's marketplace, where there's so much transparency. People know so much, and it's and you can get to a situation where people are like, well, why should I pay you that? It only takes you 15 minutes. Like, well, you're not paying for the 15 minutes, right?
I get that on Fiverr for a lot less.
Exactly. And then you're in a race to the bottom.
Yeah, you're the finest steakhouse, and they're saying, yeah, but I can get a double cheeseburger at McDonald's for 99 cents.
It's not the same. And if you want that, that's, you know, I mean, that's exactly right. But so many of us, when we start out and we get into this gerbil wheel of, you know, keeping the lights on, and think that that's the only way there is to do it. And it's not.
So what are other things that creatives need to know to get ahead of being constantly broke?
Besides raising prices and leveraging your time that is valuable on an 80/20, that's a good question.
Because it sounds like the price issue is more complex than just raising your price, because it goes back to psychological things like, well, I need every dollar, or what if they won't, what if they'll say no, or other people charge less than me, or niching down. So the more you niche down, the more you can charge. You mentioned partnering with other people so you can deliver something that's higher value and you rev share, or having someone else in charge of the sales and quoting the price. So you as a creative don't have to be the one also talking money.
That's a brilliant idea. I think depending upon the industry, it's crazy to me how much like industry standards drive things, and people just do things because that's the way they think everybody else in their industry does things.
Yeah.
And maybe it is true that they do that way, but like just because they do it doesn't mean you need to do it. It does take work to understand, but really to me, it's fun work to understand what the person really wants. What are they getting out of this? What is their outcome, and what's the value to them? And really digging deeper into that, because the deeper you get into that question, the more value you build.
Well, you're saying that their number one thing is they want to follow their passion, but they don't want to be broke. As long as they're not broke and they can do what they love to do, that's a win. Not like being a millionaire, but being unhappy working with jerks.
True. And those I'll be honest, those are not the ideal clients for us, because, there's a lot of fear and that drives our industry. People are afraid of compliance and the IRS and the state and whatever. And so they're trying to eliminate that fear. But those people tend to not really fit what we're looking for. We're looking for someone that is looking for more than just subsistence, more than just I'm following my passion and I've got food in the refrigerator.
Yeah. And they want a higher level of service. They want strategic guidance. Otherwise they would just go to an H&R block, right?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't they go to an
nobody knows how the sausage is made. Like, they don't need to know what software we use, or none of those things matter to the customer. What they care about, and I say this all the time, like when you looked at your tax return, did you know it was right?
How would you know?
Exactly.
Like, and I'd ask you as another interview, like, how would I, I'm a creative, how would I know who's a good tax and accounting professional? Why would it be Core Group US versus some other random company?
Right. I would say, and I've always said this even before we had a niche, is the key thing in hiring an accountant, and probably any professional, is your communication level. Is, how well do you communicate with them? Are you afraid to pick up the phone because you're going to be made to feel stupid, or they're going to bill you because you sent them an email? The best outcome for us with a client is a rich and open dialogue. Our clients, we have scheduled quarterly check-ins, and we'll spend a few minutes talking about the nuts and bolts and the finance, but it's fascinating in these conversations. 80% of the conversation is around what's going on in their life, what are their dreams, what are their passions, what are their struggles, and that connectivity, assuming the person has good intentions, right, is critical. Because if it's just transactional and I don't really know you, I don't know what you're trying to do, I don't know what your concerns are or your dreams are, I really can't help you as well as if I did.
And that's the angle you resonate with the creatives.
Yes.
Because you identify with who they are versus just looking at the numbers on the spreadsheet.
Exactly. Yeah. Funny thing, when we introduced that quarterly check-in model, we used to have we called them tax projection meetings, where we would discuss where they were and what we thought their taxes were going to be. And one of my relationship managers came back the first time he had a meeting on this new agenda in this quarterly check-in, and he goes, "That was awesome. We didn't talk about taxes at all." And I'm like, yeah, who wants to go and talk about taxes? Right? I mean, it's got to be done. You got to have some conversation around it. But that's like, saying, hey, I got to go get my teeth cleaned today. I got to go get a filling,
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to the dentist.
Exactly.
Unless it's Glenn Vo, who's my dentist, and I fly and I see him in Dallas. He's that good. And he's so good that he's got 40,000 other dentists that follow him.
Really?
Yeah. He's a great dentist. He teaches at the dental colleges and whatnot, but celebrities and successful people go to him because they have no idea about his tools and techniques. I've been in his office. He's got all the fanciest machines. I have no idea what these machines do. I'm sure they're very expensive. Right. But I go because of the level of rapport where I can tell that he cares. And I could go to a local dentist in LA or Las Vegas, but I fly to Dallas to see him.
That's it. He's nailed it.
Do I know anything about dentistry? No.
If your tooth hurts, that's about it.
Yeah. I had a tooth extracted a month ago.
Right.
And they did a great job and all that. There was no pain, but how would I have no idea about the technique, nor do I care.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he do a good job? I don't know. My tooth doesn't hurt anymore.
And he wasn't even the one who did it. Right. He got a whole office full of people. Now he'll come into the office just to see me.
Right.
But he's got this thing operating where he's got teams of people. I'm sure you've got teams of people. You're like the Colonel Sanders, right? Christian Brim's a Colonel Sanders, but Colonel Sanders is not, or actually not Colonel Sanders, Gordon Ramsay. Like you're the Gordon without being an a-hole. But Gordon Ramsay's not making your burger. Gordon Ramsay's not serving you, but it's Gordon Ramsay and his ethos that oversees and his expertise and his process that drives the whole thing.
Yes.
And that's why people will pay 3 times as much to go to a Gordon Ramsay restaurant.
Yeah, our core passion, our why is to enhance the lives of our clients and our team. And we talk about that daily and weekly, like, okay, what story can you share around how you made your client's life better?
Yeah. You're the only passionate accountant that I know.
I get
passionate about your business.
I don't even tell most people I'm a CPA because they have such prejudiced and predefined ideas about what a CPA is. And then they're like, well, you don't look like a CPA. You don't act like a CPA. And I'm like, well,
yeah, you're not allowed to tell a joke or smile.
No.
What are some secrets that people wouldn't know about a CPA or what you do?
Well, I'll tell you something that I'm really excited about. So we have an annual firm retreat where we all get together because we're in multiple locations, and we usually do some type of educational component and team building and all this other stuff. And the team tasked me for the idea to come up with what we're going to do at the retreat this year. And I'm like, I thought about, well, there's a sound studio here. We could go tour that. Maybe we could go watch somebody doing a production, doing a film shoot. And then I'm like, no, we're going to make our own video.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
Wear their shoes for a day.
I came back to that with the team, and they were just like giddy. They've taken it and run with it. And they've already decided it's going to be kind of like a office theme where everything's like behind the scenes, and it's accountants making a video. And so that's what the video is about, is how
you're not afraid of being mocked though, but it's intentional.
Because then we're talking about like, we got to have somebody come roll in with like 500 pages of a spreadsheet, which is completely, like that, their job was to do this, but they come in with a spreadsheet showing,
mock the stereotype, exaggerate the stereotype. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
Wow. When's that coming out?
Well, we're going to do the shoot in November. So I don't know how long the post-production, I would say first of the year.
Nice. That I think would actually be a great way to attract more clients, because then they see that you're more human and personable, and it blends the left brain, right brain that you're talking about. Well, that's so genius.
Well, and it gives our team an ability to get more understanding of the industry, right? They're getting hands-on experience. Yeah. And then I was like, because they came up with the theme of the show, and I'm like, you nailed it, because that's exactly what you can contrast that from a marketing standpoint of like accountants trying to make a video is kind of like videographers trying to do their own taxes. I mean, it's like, it's perfect play.
So you're going to dress up as Steve Carell?
I don't know. I think I'm going to be involved in the script writing. So
Okay.
I don't know yet.
That is awesome. Christian, are there questions that you wish creatives would ask you?
Well, I think the hardest thing for them to overcome is they think there's not anything out there for them, right? They're just used to what they're getting. So really it's not a specific question. It's just, having a conversation with us about what it is that they need and want, because they're oftentimes even skeptical, like that can't be, no, that doesn't really exist, right? Because they've had such horrible experiences. And using your dentist analogy, I mean, how many people have been traumatized as a child going to the dentist, right?
Yeah.
And have a lifelong fear of it. And it's then your guy shows them it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. It's incredible. So now you've grown this practice, you've focused in on the niche, you have multiple locations, you have a team, you're not the one seeing everybody, just like other creatives that have scaled their videography agency. They have multiple people in different roles. What are the challenges you're facing now?
So there's a fascinating article, and I will send the link to you, by Daniel Marcos. He's a coach with Scaling Up, which is Vern Harnish. He's the author of the book.
You and I are both bookworms.
Huh?
You and I are both bookworms.
Yes. So Daniel Marcos wrote this amazing article. It's called "Growing Yourself to Grow Your Business," and I actually reference it like at least once a year going back. But he basically breaks down the stages of businesses and what the leader of that business needs to be. And it's actually very easy to read. It's very understandable. I'm at the point now where I have to transition from being a leader to creating additional leaders. So coaching my team to be leaders themselves. And that's not necessarily a struggle, but it's definitely a shift. I had this conversation with my leadership team this week of, I don't want to be the cap on their growth. I know that if I'm in a meeting, I'm in a conversation, people are going to defer to me, and I don't want that dynamic. I want them to come up with solutions, have confidence in their solutions, to be able to sell their solutions to their team. And that's where I am right now.
You're in that third stage of life.
Yes.
That Jack Ma, who's the billionaire that founded Alibaba, he said that the first 10 years, first decade of your life is about gaining skills and becoming a good employee and being specialized, really good at something. The second decade is about being a manager and being able to manage other people, being able to do that and operate. And the third stage, third decade, which he just entered, is about, because you have more behind you than ahead of you, is mentoring other people and seeing them succeed. So I consider myself like the ultimate soccer dad, because I love seeing young adults grow. I love empowering other leaders. The number one thing I give people is permission to think, because they'll just go to you and say, what, instead of, well, I can give you the answer, but what do you think the answer is before you come to me? What do you think you should do?
The analogy that we use, and it's not one I stole it, is instead of delegation, it's deputization. And,
I like that.
And it's the idea that if you're the deputy sheriff, you have the full authority and responsibility of the sheriff. So not only do you have the responsibility to make sure something happens, but you also have the authority to do what you need to do. And I use that phrase a lot. I use it less now because people have caught on. They'll ask me a question and I'll say, I don't know, deputy, because I know they know the answer. They're just, they're looking, and I'll tell them straight up. I'm like, if you're looking for my experience here, if you're looking for, my input in some way, I'm happy to give it, but don't come to me for approval. I don't want you to come to me to say this is okay to do.
Yes, boss.
Right.
Awesome. Well, Christian, it's an honor having you on the Coach U Show. You are the deputizer of accountants for creatives. I bet you that phrase has never been said before in the history of the world.
We're going to copyright that. And I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
What can I do for you?
I don't know. I'm going to go talk to Delana about her coaching call yesterday, and we're going to post some more ads. So hopefully she got her questions answered.
And we're going to take our interview here and chop it up into pieces, turn them into articles, run $1 a day against it. I think a lot of what you shared for creatives, they are struggling with the finances and taxes, and just like people are scared of the dentist. And when they realize that they can pursue their passion and it doesn't come at the cost of growing their business or being business oriented, then they can see what's really possible by having not just an accountant, but someone who understands who they are and can coach them on these issues.
Yes.
And has specialized in other creatives and videographers and such. I think that's a breath of fresh air. And I would love to see that message out there, because I think there's so few people that are ambidextrous like you, that can bridge both sides.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I'm excited.
Thank you, Christian.
All right.
Appreciate you. Until then, tune into the Coach U Show, where we interview successful entrepreneurs.
I will.
Today we had Christian Brim, who runs Core Group US. And if you're a creative and money something that you are kind of apprehensive about, I think you're going to really appreciate what Christian has to say. We're going to use that as the beginning. We record the intro. Record the intro at the end. I know it sounds backwards, but same thing. Like when you write a book, you write the beginning at the end.
So you being an author, do you have any, was TikTok your first?
No, I've got 14.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
It's like a serial addiction habit.
Okay. Well, I may reach out to you over the next few months, as I did hire a coach, a writing coach.
Okay.
So
you can do that, but let me tell you, the approach that's been working the best the last 3 years among other entrepreneurs who are super busy and don't want to sit down and write a 70,000 word manuscript, that kind of thing. This book, which is the #1 bestseller in social media on Amazon, we didn't write this book. We spoke it. There were a bunch of Zoom calls that we had with the top people in TikTok, the people who are succeeding, and interviewed them about their success. And then we had a team that basically took all that, ran it through Descript and these other tools that we have, and turned it into proper chapters and diagrams and that kind of thing. So the whole pain of writing a book, because when you think of writing a book, you think, oh, I got to sit down at Ernest Hemingway in a cabin for months. And no, you are going about the best book is one that authentically reflects your expertise. So you're already having Zoom calls with team members and clients and all that. Take those, have ChatGPT, group those into themes, and then you have written a book. It's not a ghost written book. It's not someone else who's like making up aphorisms. It's not the AI that's just creating stuff out of thin air. It's taking your existing experience, the principles that you share today, and then adding that's the structure, the skeleton, and then fleshing it out with the different stories. And it's the stories, those anecdotes that make the book what it is. That otherwise it might as just well be, chicken soup for the accountant.
Yeah.
Or profit
I
first
agree.
for the whatever, right? That's a great methodology, but it's your stories that make it come alive. And it's why people identify with you. It's because of the stories that come through that experience.
I couldn't agree more.
So it's a process. It's not this other thing like, oh, I'm already so busy, I don't have time to write a book. No, that's the minute you're thinking that, you're already off track, because what we're doing is a book is nothing more than a re-encapsulation of what you already have. You don't need to create anything new because you already are Christian Brim. Now, if you were a new business and you were new as an accountancy, then we'd have to make something up or talk about your dad or, someone else, interview someone else who's good at taxes, but you already have all that. So all you need is a couple VAs or a writing person to repurpose content you've already created. Repurpose meaning translate it into another format, like take video and turn it into text, or take text and turn it into articles, or you have all the, I like to use the Mexican food analogy, right? You already have all the ingredients. Now you're going to make a tostada, a taco, an enchilada, chalupa, burrito. You don't need more. You have all the ingredients already. Now you just need someone to recombine what you already have into a book. That's it. And then you put on Amazon, $1 a day it in the category for, financial advice for creatives or whatever. You can choose 3 categories on Amazon and just run $1 a day.
You can do $1 a day on Amazon?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
$1 a day on Amazon is the only thing that I like more than $1 a day on Amazon is $1 a day on YouTube. Tom Breeze, were you there at the mastermind at Perry's Definitive Traffic Summit?
Yeah.
So Tom Breeze gave a presentation on how he uses $1 a day on YouTube. And I recorded a private call with him.
Was he the British guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I loved it. Yes.
Yeah. That's $1 a day.
Yes. I guess
Delana should do that
connection. But I can. Yes, you're right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And Delana should watch the class that Tom and I taught on that, where he walks through, he logs into Mr. Beats, Mr. Beast and Alex, he logs into their ad accounts and shows how he builds ads off of YouTube. He finds the hook, he looks at all the stats, finds the initial piece, that's the hook. And then, short little clips. The $1 a day is just a testing strategy to refine what's already working. That's all it is. And so I show what works on Facebook and on Google. He shows YouTube's part of Google, but $1 a day works on every channel. That's why $1 a day on Amazon's fantastic. If the content's good, if the reviews are good. $1 a day is an amplifier. It doesn't make, if you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shiitake, whatever.
Yes.
Out of chicken shiitake is what I like to say. But
yeah,
you have the ingredients. Now we just need to put it on every channel. Like that. Do you think Perry Marshall is dancing and singing on TikTok? No, but in order to create this book, I said, Perry, for us to do this book on TikTok, I'm going to require you. I demand that you get on TikTok, and we're going to make some TikToks together, and we're going to make some ads together. And he was a little apprehensive. The godfather of digital advertising was apprehensive of getting on TikTok and making ads. And initially, he didn't say it quite this way, but I took it as, Dennis, you just go ahead and write the book and I'll put my name on it and we'll distribute it to our audience.
Right.
Because I have the best-selling book on Google, best-selling book on Facebook. So let's just do TikTok. That wasn't what he said, but that's how I heard what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Perry, all those principles that work on Google and Facebook, do you think they're not the same principles on TikTok? They just have to be in video. You just you're on Google, you're used to writing words, and words are the ads. But now you just speak those words. It's the same. You're solving the same problem for the same user base with the same package and solution that you offer, right? Goals, content, and targeting. Same components of advertising. But now instead of just words run through Google, you just turn them in. Now you just speak them. So Perry, let's take Perry's greatest hits and let's turn those. Now you just speak them on a cell phone. So for my birthday, I flew out to Chicago and we hung out the whole day and we recorded videos on this cell phone. And we got Perry Marshall on TikTok.
I'm going to have to go check it out.
Yeah. And the funny thing is it doesn't even have to be on his account.
Right.
Because anyone who mentions Perry Marshall or mentions me or mentions $1 a day, that's there. We have a bunch of clients where you can see they've made corporate stuff, like World Gym is a client. They're a chain of bodybuilding places. Like they're the original one, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and those the serious people who lift weights. And if you search World Gym, the top videos there are made by people who go to World Gym. It's not World Gym's corporate account, because when they started making videos that obviously looked like it was made by the corporate videographer team. It looks like a commercial. It's too good looking, no engagement. And we said, TikTok, and this is what we teach in the book. The number one thing about TikTok is UGC. You're featuring your clients. Your clients are talking about you. And then we run ads against them. We can boost their posts.
Yes. That
way it's not on you. And then when you have the book out and other creatives identify, they resonate with those same themes about pricing, about how, it's left brain and right brain, about, your passion, about your goals, about it's not just like saving money for the tax man. They're like, yeah, I identify with that. And when they have a discussion, when they talk about this, when they comment, other people say, yeah, I resonate with that too. And that's what drives your marketing. It's word of mouth. It's the same thing that's caused Core Group US to grow. It's that we're just going to have it work in book format too. The same thing, nothing different, nothing new, just another channel. That's all.
I'm excited.
And anyone who's a book coach or an author, I mean, maybe they know about books, but if they don't resonate with our discussion today, it doesn't matter. Resonating with who you are is more important than the nuts and bolts of how do you publish a book and get an ISBN number and run ads and promote it and all that.
It's Gracie Publishing. I met her at the Perry Marshall event 2 years ago. And I wasn't thinking about writing a book at the time, but what struck me is she instantaneously resonated with me because she started asking the most fascinating questions. Like, well, why do you want to write a book? Like, I'm like, well, I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, like,
but it's the same thing that you do for creatives, because the first question you're asked is not like, hey, give me all your, W-2s and what.
Right.
It's
Right.
You're asking the right questions. So you got our $1 a day program. That's just to amplify all the things that you have. So every time you have more assets, that's more shots on goal. That's more things to put out there and amplify for $1 a day. That's all it is. Like this podcast is going to be repurposed into different kinds of content because we practice what we preach. It's going to go on YouTube. It's going to turn into blog posts. It's going to be different sorts of social media snippets. And we're going to put it out there for $1 a day and see which ones perform the best. And then the team will come back to us and say, well, here's the 10 different things that Christian said. Can you guess which of these 10 things did the best? And I'd say, oh, it's when he said that he deputizes people. Nope, it wasn't that. It was actually this. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I've already seen that in what little we've done. I'm like, I'm shocked that that was the most engagement.
Because we are wrong. Like you and I, well, especially me, I think I know better. So I'll look at a list of these ads or whatever, and I'll think I can choose the winner. I'm wrong every time. So it's just about dollar a day is just about letting the system tell us and us putting our egos aside and like, oh yeah, okay, that's the winner. Okay, well, we're going to put more money on the winner, even though I kind of thought this other one would do better. But the data is the data.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it's actually the natural evolution of marketing in general. It's like, marketers used to try to figure out what people wanted to hear,
Yeah.
and would spend a lot of money, and maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite books is Alchemy by
Yeah.
do you know the book?
Alchemy, I don't know the author.
Yeah, that was a fascinating read. But it's basically, we don't know why people behave the way they do. We don't.
Well, Christian, it's a pleasure.